Hey everyone, my name is Jason Filer. I hope you're doing super well, and I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about this tag of this arrangement of Rainbow Round My Shoulder, arranged by Kyle Snook, performed by Full Effect. I uploaded a transcription of their performance a few days ago. I'll link that in the description. And if you want to hear my full-length interview of Full Effect, I will also link that in the description, so go feel free to watch that if you want to hear more about the group. Let's talk about this tag. So I'm going to start here at the end where you have the In Love section. And I think that there are a few main takeaways here that are really, really helpful for barbershop arranging that everyone should be aware of. So here we have this tenor holding out the top note, the B up there, so we're in the key of B major. So we have the B on the top, which is the root held for 4 measures almost. And then what happens below it is we have this B dominant chord. It's voiced 5, flat 7, 3, 1, which is not too uncommon, especially when you have this post up here, because the way this works is that these 3 voices down here will move a half step down for 3 different chords, and they will all be fully functional chords, fully functional barbershop chords. So we have F sharp, A natural, and D sharp, which are 5, flat 7, and 3 in the B7 chord, classic barbershop chord. Then we keep the B, move these down a half step, and now we have an F diminished chord, or G sharp diminished, or B diminished, or D diminished. They're all the same thing. They're all just a bunch of minor thirds. So we have then F, G sharp, and D, which are, the 3 other chords, 3 other notes in this dominant, or in this diminished 7th chord. And then this moves down a half step again over here to this E minor 6 chord. Could also be C sharp half diminished, they're the same thing. I'll call it E minor 6 because the E is on the bottom. So we have E, which is the root, the minor 3rd, which is G natural, the major 6th, which is C sharp, and then the B at the top. So all we've done is just kept the B, and then he moved down these voices so that we have this descending sound with the B on top, and they're all legal chords in the barbershop language, and they sound great. And then there's this other really awesome technique, which happens all the time, especially in much older classic barbershop, where you have a full major chord. You have 1, 5, 3, 1. Oftentimes you'll see this chord with the 1 below the 3rd. So 1, 5, 1, 3. And then if they want to change it from that being a fully, regular triad to a dominant 7th chord, then the bass can move up to the 5. The barry moves from the 5 to the flat 7, and the tenor and lead will stay the same. In this case, the lead is on D sharp, the 3rd, and the tenor is on the 1, but it could also be the tenor on the D sharp and the lead on the 1 on the B. So it works either way. But it's a very, very common thing, especially going to the 4. In this case, it goes to a minor 4. And it's the same chord as we had before, this E half diminished. And then we have this one, which is another B7 chord. It's just a little offset because the lead comes in a little bit later. And then there's this other chord, which is just pretty much just an E major triad, which is a little different from the E minor one earlier. So we go to G sharp, back to the B dominant chord, and then we hold out this the E minor 6 chord. This is a very, very common chord that, especially in ballads, people will hold out these minor 6 chords or half diminished, same thing, and then have a big break and then start the song later. In this case, he uses it as, the ending of the section going into the actual tag. So a few things for this actual tag. It's noted that I believe, I could be wrong, but this is a transcription, I'll have the actual score. I believe that Wyatt, the bass here, jumps up from the F sharp to the C sharp. I'm pretty sure he's on the C sharp, I just don't know exactly when he switches, and then Caleb goes down to the G natural there. So then Wyatt has time to breathe and then go to day and then hold that for the rest of the tag. So as he does that, we have this unison line. The No More Skies is all the first 3 notes of the scale. And then on Of, we break out to this other E minor 6 chord. And then here we have another very common thing, especially in tags with a post on the root. Especially, again, if they're in the bass, if the post is in the bass. So we have this E minor 6, and then right here, we have this C sharp 7 chord. C sharp 7 with the B on the bottom. So it's very common for this post when they're in the bass for the top 3 voices to be moving around triadically. In this case, we go from C sharp diminished to C sharp major, and then to D major, and then to F sharp minor, and then here's where we break out into other stuff. So it's all just triads, and then the B can fit into that chord somehow. So we have the C sharp diminished triad becomes C sharp half diminished, or E minor 6 when you add the B. The C sharp major triad becomes C sharp 7. this D major triad here becomes B minor 7. It's very helpful because the movement is so easy, but it changes the sound of it so much because the progressions, they're so far away on the circle of fifths because they're, half steps away. So it makes it much more interesting of a progression, but it's super, super easy to sing. I mean, it's not really easy, but it's easier than other choices that could have been made, but it still sounds just as good. And now, for these last few chords, there's this one, which is a little bit of a strange one. This is not a chord you normally see. It's B, and then F sharp is the next highest, and then A, and then C sharp. So this is kind of an F sharp minor over B. Not a very common barbershop chord, but the whole point is to get you to the next chord, which is also not very common of a barbershop chord, but it does sort of fit into the language. The way that I would analyze this is as an A9 chord without a fifth, and with B in the bass. So we have B, which is the ninth of A dominant 9, A, which is, of course, the root, G is the 7, and then C sharp is the third. That's how I would analyze it. There are other ways to do it, but that's usually how I would analyze chords, which are just, if you put them down, they're just all whole steps apart, because you can go G, then A, then B, then C sharp. I think of it as A9. And then that resolves to this final B major chord. So, and the voice leading is very nice. G goes down to F sharp. And then C sharp goes up to D sharp. A goes up to B. And, of course, the bass is holding the B the whole time. One more thing to note about this tag, which is something that I think is really, really helpful. Not very, very common, but I think it's getting increasingly more common, especially among longer posts, where Wyatt says, today. I believe that's the word he sings there. But then they say, no more skies of gray, just you and I for always. And there's an S at the end. You can hear them pronounce the S, but today doesn't have an S, so he just puts an S at the end. And this just, no one is thinking like, oh, he said today, there shouldn't be an S. Or maybe, I could be wrong. He might not even sing an S there. But it doesn't matter whether he does or not because everyone hears an S. So it's either he just says today or A's. It works either way. But it's definitely, it's getting more and more common for people to write posts that start on a certain word and then end on a different word that sounds very similar. Or in some cases, there are some that actually don't sound similar. And it is just a completely different vowel that they'll have to shift the vowel during the post. I might talk about that in a few weeks for a different video, but so that's a very uncommon thing, but it works very, very well and has the same effect as a regular post and a regular cutoff. So hopefully that gives you some good information, some good insight onto how this part of the tag was arranged and some of the chords, some of the language used. And if you would like, you can go watch the performance of it. I'll link in the description. And then if you would like to watch their interview, that's already up. So I'll link that in the description as well. Feel free to go check it out, and hope you have an awesome day. I'll see you all later.